and kind and good. So I'll keep moving on. I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on till I reach the top somehow.
Okay, my Straight Talk family, whenever you hear that theme song, you know it's time for another edition of Straight Talk. And I know it's time for me to convey my real sincere apologies for this tardy start, very tardy start tonight. And I do humbly apologize for that. Circumstances entirely beyond my control. But nonetheless, we're here, and the bad thing about it that they always taught us is it's better to be late than never. But that's no excuse for being late. Again, my Straight Dog family, I humbly apologize for this late start tonight. And we'll give back the time. We'll give you back the time. Trust me, we will. And it's time for me to say good night, St. Kitts and Nevis. Good night to the entire Caribbean region. And I should say good night to the world, because we are on the World Wide Web, coming to you via our social media platforms on YouTube and Facebook. And we're all over the world. In Africa, we're in Asia, in Europe, and there are a whole lot of you all over North America. So I'm at liberty to say good night to my friends there in the UK in particular. Pleasant good morning to you. And I can say good afternoon as well. My Straight Talk family. I'm laughing here because the Queen over there in Texas says she's not going to accept the apology. Well, we'll make up for that, my dear Queen. Nonetheless, but Straight Talk, if you're a first-timer, is a public service program that facilitates and promotes free expression of national interests, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On Straight Talk, we do have a forum to express ourselves freely. Let's, in the process, strive to get St. Kitts back to the number one, or to one of the top countries in the entire world. On this program, we try to raise the level of national consciousness. We try to raise the level of national discourse by alerting our people to their rights, to their responsibilities, and certainly to their control, to their responsibilities, and certainly as well to their obligations, I should say. My name is Ian Patches Liburn, and I give Almighty God thanks for blessing me with yet another opportunity to join you, my Straight Dog family, on yet another occasion. And just to inform you as well, the first timers in particular, Straight Talk is a participative program. By that I mean we entertain your calls, we entertain your emails, and if you're so minded to call, the numbers are 646-829-6672 and or locally 869-663-6672. And my Straight Dog family, it's not a good day in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a hot day. It's somewhere in the 90s, I was told, Fahrenheit. 90-something degrees in the shade. But it's hot as well in terms of other things. We are going to address all things here on Straight Talk. We leave no stones unturned. And while we want to extend our condolences to all those who have lost loved ones, we understand that death is a process. We can't say anything, I can't say anything, condolences, my sympathies to you, and all sorts of things we tend to say. But really, Jimmy Cliff said, who feels it knows it, my Straight Talk family. And tonight, we are going to first look at our observations, or I should tell you as a matter of fact, my thesis for tonight, which I've circulated, and you know, I always present a short thesis, and I have entitled my thesis for tonight, Politics Make Strange Bedfellows, a Weasel and a Monster. And my Straight Talk family, I will first, however, consider our observations in review. Our observations in review for tonight, my Straight Talk family, and our first observation, and it's a time when we highlight the issues of the day and do some reflection on some issues that we may have raised. But last week, Thursday, my Stray Dog family, last week, Thursday, I raised a very interesting issue purporting to an alleged high-profile interference in the working of the court, the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, to be exact, and the publication of a judgment that was issued therefrom, a case that involved the Attorney General Garth Lucien Wilkin. I made the point that after some 4 months, or perhaps more, the judgment was not posted on the court's portal like all other judgments. I also made the information public that I did not receive the courtesy of a reply from a letter I sent to the Bar Association since in March of this year. And lo and behold, my Straight Dog family, I have now received that response, which is dated the 26th of May, 2023, and in fact, it is a copy of a letter addressed to Miss Carolyn Merchant, who is the president of the St. Kitts and Nevis Bar Association. And the letter reads, and I quote, "Dear Madam President, letter dated from Ian Patches Library." In fact, it's dated March the 3rd, so conveniently, that date is omitted. Refer to the attached letter from Ian Patches Library, dated March 3rd, 2023, addressed to you, but seemingly for the attention of the chair of the disciplinary committee, the committee. The letter was brought to the attention of the committee at its meeting held on March 27th. We wish to advise that the committee is governed by the Legal Profession Act Cap 3.28 in the exercise of its functions. And as there is no formal complaint before us in accordance with those provisions, we are unable to engage the jurisdiction of the committee. We have taken the liberty to copy in or liberty of copying Mr. Liburd and trust that he would be guided accordingly. And it's signed, yours sincerely, Delana Bart King's Council, Vice Chair of the Disciplinary Committee, my Straight Talk family, and copied to your humble servant. But very interesting, the meeting was held since March. The letter was written in March. A reply dated March or May 26, coming to me in June. But I can say to you, my Straight Talk family, that this is not over until it is over. Especially when there is a decision from the High Court which states, and I quote from paragraph 3 on the very last page of that decision. And you can read it yourselves. I said the judgment was posted just on Thursday last after several months. But you can read that decision yourself, my Straight Talk family. And paragraph 3 reads, and I quote, it reads, and I quote my Straight Talk family, the defenses of justification and fair comment are raised. The justification defense likely to succeed on certain aspects of Nanigate, in particular, that Social Security contributions were paid late by Mr. Wilkin, constituting breaches liable to prosecution. Unquote. My Straight Talk family, what this will tell you, as it tells me when I read it, and you can read it, go to the website anytime. It tells me that the Social Security Board treated Garth Lucian Wilkin like a privileged kid. Because while even as I speak right now, poor people, children, have been hauled before the court and are being prosecuted. I really thought when I heard Senator Nigel Carty some years ago, when he made this comment, I really thought that Senator Nigel Carty was right and things had changed. And this is what Nigel Carty had to say.
These are not the days 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when only Charles Wilkin and a few people who look like him were lawyers in the country.
And I thought that Nigel Carty was correct. But obviously, those days have not gone away. My second observation tonight relates to the second of 3 political party conventions which was held yesterday at the People's Action Movement headquarters. The 91st Labour Party convention was held several Sundays ago on the 21st of May, I think it was. And now all eyes are therefore on the People's Labour Party 10th annual convention, which is slated for Saturday the 17th of June, under the theme, Building Bigger, Stronger Together. And most times, everyone looks forward for an exciting convention coming from the People's Labour Party. But I found a statement coming from the People's Action Convention yesterday. I found it, in some parts, rather troubling. When I heard this myself, it left me pondering.
The last year has not gone the way we wanted it to go. But if it's one thing you know that your party and leaders took a principled stand for the people of this country. And we know that sometimes when people stand up for what is right and they stand up on principle, they quite often face tribulation.
My Straight Talk family, I ask myself, how principled that has caused and continues to cause so much suffering and pain in the country. Because thousands of persons have lost their social assistance from PAP. Hundreds of persons have been victimized and lost their jobs. And crime on the labor when Pam had 3 more years to help to govern the country and not surrender a government to a bunch of incompetent, inexperienced leaders. How much principled can such a stand be when you have exposed the country and its people to so much suffering? But more time for that, my Straight Talk family. That's my view, and you'll have yours, I'm sure. But since that principled stand was taken last year, August the 5th, since that time, we have had 22 murders in St. Kitts. What a principled stand. The latest 2 murders today, my Straight Talk family, was recorded today, sadly. My Straight Talk family. A mother and a son both lost their lives. According to this report from Model Cup News, Shaq Benjamin reported this about midday today.
We are here in the Rectory Road area where MCN has confirmed that there is a double murder. 2 persons have been killed. Circumstances surrounding the shootings are unavailable at this moment, but as you can see, if you look at the distance here, we have
Vice Chair of the Disciplinary Committee, Straight Talk family, and copied to
okay, folks, so this is what's going on there. Somebody apparently who is familiar with the shooting, I don't know, has just arrived on the scene and made an attempt to go onto the crime scene, and he has been stopped by the police. Yeah, as police are carrying out their investigation. So that is what's happening right here on Rectory Road. We have a double homicide. I don't know if you can see in the distance, somebody is there, a body is there on the ground, and I'm told that the next body is somewhere down the road. So as we stand right now, we have a double homicide in the Monday, 5th June. So until I bring you any further updates, reporting for MCN and Monaco. That's what's going on right here on Rectory. Double homicide.
Double homicide on Rectory Road today, my Straight Talk family. There are many questions that have derived from the madness over there on Rectory Road today. High day. We ask ourselves, where is the Prime Minister and Minister who has responsibility for national security, Dr. Terence Drew? For this year alone, there have been 14 murders. The Minister of National Security and Prime Minister has not uttered one word. But my Straight Dog family, I'm sure in time to come, we'll hear much more about that. He has amended the PAP. He has amended the peace or the alternative style program. And Dr. Drew continues to cause mayhem in this country because of his stubborn attitude. But those are my observations in review tonight, my Straight Dog family. And at 8:32, I move right into my thesis for tonight, if you've just joined me. I mentioned it's entitled, Politics Make Strange Bedfellows. And a few days ago, my Straight Dog family, someone sent me a recently released calypso done by politician and many times crowned Culturama Calypso King. This and that. My good friend. In his calypso, he displayed his seasoned art of combining musical tones in such melodic, harmonic, and rhythmic ways that form an intelligible sound. And he sang this, my Straight Dog family.
You have a real opportunity to build. I say build. Put your shoulders to the wheel. Let the country see and feel as you build. I say build. Let history be your guide. Put loyalty by your side. Success, my friend, will come once you abide. So they will build this country.
My Straight Dog family, you'll agree, melodic, harmonic, and rhythmic progression, thus forming an intelligible sound. But it's the lyrical content that caught my attention, nonetheless, and caused me to pen my thesis tonight, which I just said I have titled Politics Make Strange Bedfellows, a Weasel and a Monster. His lyrics went like this, or goes like this. Dr. Drew and Mark Brantley have a real opportunity to build this country. But it goes on to say, let history be your guide. Put loyalty by your side, and success will come once you abide. Well, my Straight Dog family, if history is to be their guide, Drew and Brantley, they must put loyalty by their side. And yes, success will come once they abide. But what tells us that Drew and Brantley will have to accept or act in accordance with a decision or recommendation that is before them? So it begs the question I ask you, or I pose tonight. What is the political interest of Dr. Drew and Mark Brantley? And political interests can bring together people who otherwise have little or nothing at times in common. And this concise statement contains a held truth or advice, as the phrase strange bedfellows was coined by William Shakespeare. And those literature pundits would say to you, it was adapted from a line in the play The Tempest, and it in its full context reads, and I quote, Misery acquaints a man with strange bedfellows. It was spoken by a man who had been shipwrecked and found himself seeking shelter beside a sleeping monster. In our current situation in St. Kitts and Nevis, it has come to mean finding oneself in a difficult situation forces one to associate with a person or people that they would not normally have anything to do with. The activities associated with the governance of our federation, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power, continue to demand the scrutiny of every citizen and resident. Today, the 5th day of June, 2023, makes exactly 10 months since we elected a new government. But during that time, the country has found out that our leader is a dishonest person who cannot be trusted. Someone who is sneaky, as we say in colloquial parlance, devious or deceitful, and he evades every single question posed to him by the media. Having made that assessment, a friend of mine refers to him as a political weasel, whose words make arguments seem specific, well thought out and meaningful, when in reality his claims are vague, avoids the facts, and are extremely ambiguous, creates much doubt in everyone's minds. He continues to use these weasel words that were employed during his political campaigning and interviews, seemingly forgetting that now is the time to govern the country. Govern the country, Prime Minister. On the other hand, there are monsters that are very often depicted as dangerous and aggressive. And there is this political monster called Mark Brantley, who is no exception. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis can no longer deny that this political monster, Mark Brantley, is real. Excuse me. This monster, Mark Brantley, let's reflect. He wrestled the leadership from a founding member of the Concerned Citizens Movement and eventually replaced the cool, calm, collective and participative style of the late Vance Winkworth Amory with what many call one of autocracy, in which he displays a domineering rule of single control over his executive. Now, when one reflects on the federation and independence movements of our Trinity of Islands, St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla, we all were united by Federal Act in 1882, beg your pardon, and became an independent state in association with the United Kingdom on February 27, 1967. The islands were granted full internal government, with the United Kingdom retaining responsibility for defense and foreign affairs. After the islands had assumed the status of associated states, Anguilla complained of domination by St. Kitts or the St. Kitts administration. In May 1967, the Anguillans ejected the St. Kitts police and established their own council. In July of the same year, they proclaim their independence. And sure bet, in the next few days, lots of people will be talking about the 10th of June. But after unsuccessful negotiations, the Anguilla Act of July 1971 placed Anguilla directly under British control. On February 10, 1976, Anguilla was granted a constitution, and its union with St. Kitts and Nevis was formally severed in 1980. 100 years later, a constitutional conference was held in London in 1982. And in spite of disagreement over special provisions for Nevis, St. Kitts Nevis became independent on September 19, 1983. It was because of the political expediency of Kennedy Simmons, our first Prime Minister. Our Constitution still provides for the separation of Nevis from St. Kitts. The famous 113 clause still reads, as per subsection 1, after 40 years of independence, that the Nevis Island Legislature may provide that the island of Nevis shall cease to be federated with the island of St. Christopher, and accordingly, that this constitution shall no longer have effect on the island or in the island of Nevis. One of the early issues in the 1995 administration of the Prime Minister, then Dr. Denzil Douglas, was a secession movement on Nevis. 3 years later, in 1998, a referendum was held in Nevis on the question of independence for the island, but it fell short of the 2/3 majority needed to secede. But 27 years later, the Federation was presented with a political alliance of 3 political parties in St. Kitts and Nevis, which formed the government after the 2015 election. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis spoke loud and clear, and in the process demanded a change in the governance of the Twin Island Federation. There are some amongst us, for national or for narrow political reasons, would rewrite history if given the opportunity. But the period of 2015 to 2020 must go down as the most productive years in the economic and social development of St. Kitts and Nevis. Never did the Federation experience the kind and level of infrastructure development, and furthermore, in such a short period of time. The rehabilitation of the Island Main Road, the rehabilitation of the Old Road Bay, construction of a brand new ferry terminal, construction of the East Bastille terminal, bus terminal, and construction of the West Bastille bus line terminal, installation of traffic lights in Bastille, resurfacing of the entire runway, and the installation of brand new solar lighting, also resurfacing of the 3 taxiways, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, at the Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw International Airport. Construction of affordable homes, and the construction of the second cruise pier that can accommodate 2 of the largest cruise ships afloat today can be accommodated simultaneously, the Oasis class ships. So one must be disingenuous to say that Team Unity did nothing in 7 years, when in fact it delivered a brighter future for all Kittians and Nevisians. But then came in 2020 the coronavirus-induced pandemic, one never seen in 100 years. The strategy of the Team Unity government was to save lives, and that it did. Although we finally reported 48 deaths associated with the virus. But more importantly, my Straight Dog family, St. Kitts Nevis recorded the lowest number of cases per capita in the Western Hemisphere. And that speaks volumes about the Team Unity's Life First strategy. But then came the demise of Team Unity. What went wrong is a question many still ask. What went wrong? Here, my Straight Dog family, we have two leaders, Jew and Brantley, who the whole world knows are very apart from each other in every way. But Jew doesn't have the confidence that he can hold his party together. And Brantley still has the ambition in a government, so they continue to explore any common ground they may have and agree to work together. A clear case, my Straight Dog family, of two politicians who we can say are strange bedfellows. In his 10 months in office, Drew has been accused of having complete disregard for the truth. Drew has made the poor poorer, and violent crime is now the order of the day. Just today, double homicide, 14 homicides, 13 of which are gun-related. From August to this date, 10 months, 22 murders under Dr. Drew, and not one word from him. But Mark Brantley double-crossed Douglas. He personally stabbed Vance Amory in the back, and Vance called him despicable. He undermined Tim Harris and finally betrayed Sean Richards. Brantley is nothing but a political monster. But he is wide awake, and Drew must be aware. But how do we explain acts of extreme cruelty and depraved indifference in Brantley's behavior? It is not surprising that many often turn to the idea of evil. So why should anyone believe that Mark Brantley would not double-cross Terrence Drew? Why should anyone believe that? Why should anyone believe that he would not double-cross Terrence Drew? He said this.
You asked about fair share. Well, that, of course, continues to be an issue. I mentioned Prime Minister Drew on 2 or 3 occasions during this press conference because I said thus far, he has been a man of his word. Thus far, in terms of our discussions and the issues, he has responded positively. But we look forward to a good working relationship with the federal government.
Thus far, he's been a man of his word. What has he got? Tell the people of Nevis, Mark Brantley, who first became leader of the opposition in 2007, after the seat became vacant as a result of the death of CCM member of Parliament for constituency number 9, the late Malcolm Gishard. The unfortunate turn of events forced by elections on Nevis, and though the race between NRP's Hensley Daniel and CCM's Brantley was a close run, the latter emerged victorious. Having received the support of his fellow opposition members, he succeeded Gishard as the federal parliament's opposition leader. And I recall, and many would recall, then Prime Minister Douglas allocated funds for the office of the leader of the opposition. And in spite of the monthly drawdowns, an office was never opened in St. Kitts or Nevis for that matter. 8 years later, in 2015, he landed in the federal government and claimed it was the best thing that happened to Nevis. How could we forget the $500 million that Nevis received from the federal government? And to date, no proper accounting has been given for that money. All the projects had cost overruns, and not one project has been completed to date. The Mondo track, where it stands. The hospital, incomplete, and the list goes on and on, my Straight Dog family. The people of Nevis have rejected Mark. The people of Nevis have rejected Mark according to this big CCM supporter, Pastor Doe.
They use the position that they are in government they use the position to enrich themselves. People are not stupid. They are not there for people. They are there for themselves. They are there to enrich themselves. They are not there to really look out for the poor man. CCM disrespectful. CCM callous. CCM doesn't really care about its supporters. And people are fed up of that. People are fed up of that.
And they ought to be fed up. But how could the people of St. Kitts embrace this monster, Mark Brantley, when he prayed like this for Timothy Harris?
Timothy Harris is our Prime Minister. God bless him. May he have a long tenure in office and good health.
How could you trust him? Remember as well, under the cloak of parliamentary immunity, Mark Brantley had this to say about then opposition leader Denzel Douglas.
They say a passenger traveling outbound from Gatwick to Dubai on Emirates EK010 was detained with a large amount of cash. The passenger did not declare the cash. They ended up with a total of 78,000 US in cash, 9,000 pounds in cash, and 2,000 EC. Mr. Speaker, I have not been known to come in this house with foolishness, I don't practice that. This money was seized at Gatwick Airport under the provisions of the Proceeds of Crime Act. They said the passenger with the cash was identified through his passport as Mr. Denzel Llewellyn Douglas.
What about the cash? Why don't Mark Brantley tell us about that now, outside of the parliament, on his program on Wednesday? Because the same Mark Brantley traveled in Dr. Drew's official party to witness the coronation of King Charles III. But lo and behold, we saw Denzel Llewellyn Douglas stepping into the Westminster Abbey. And Mark Brantley, when asked for, we are told he was only allowed into a holding room miles away. To convince the political weasel, this political monster may have adopted Mugabe's reconciliation statement of 1980. he made to the people of Zimbabwe. Mark Brantley can adopt this. If yesterday I fought you as an enemy, today you have become a friend and ally. If yesterday you hated me, you cannot avoid that the love that binds you to me and me to you. The wrongs of the past must now stand forgiven and forgotten. Brantley's obsession, my Straight Dog family, is with power. A lot of people may think that Mark Brantley has changed, especially since the local NIA elections in December 2022. But Mark Brantley can never change. In fact, he is the most consistent secessionist I have ever known. What changed was the circumstances. His grip on power is under threat, and he has run the NIA into a mountain of debt. So he's looking for a bailout from the federal government. And Drew sees Brantley as his political insurance. But my Straight Dog family, the political weasel ought to be cautious. The political weasel ought to be cautious with this political monster. He's plotting to become prime minister, believe it or not, my Straight Dog family.
I want to be very clear that those who feel that it is wrong for Nevis to aspire to be prime minister, tell them I say, nothing to all go so.
My Straight Dog family, let's not forget the political monster promised to be kingmaker or to make himself king. My Straight Dog family.
Currently, we hold a delicate balance of power, with our seats contributed to create and sustain in office the Team Unity government, which has led St. Kitts and Nevis since February of 2015. Let me be clear. This party, the Concerned Citizens Movement, has been and shall remain firmly in the role of kingmaker. For all who have ears to hear, let them hear.
My Straight Dog family, right now, the political monster Mark Brantley is the Premier of Nevis and the Federation's loyal opposition leader. On becoming Premier of Nevis and Prime Minister, he confided in someone close to him that he would change his name to Mark the Conqueror. Mark Brantley is hated in Nevis and is just an opportunist with no path and no conviction. This political monster is just a destabilizing factor. The best place for both the political weasel and the political monster, the best place for both of them is to be exiled on Booby Island. The strange disposition of the monster Mark Brantley derives from the current poor fiscal situation. A man who spent his whole political career fighting the Labour Party. Whole career fighting Labour.
In my own country, I've spent a political career fighting against the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party.
Yes, his whole career, he confessed, he spent fighting the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. The political monster Mark Brantley reported in December 2022 an actual public debt as at October 2021 of approximately $500 million, my Straight Talk family.
Mr. President, the total public sector debt, which includes the debt stock of our statutory bodies, which is guaranteed by the NIA, stood at $492.9 million as at October 30th, 2021.
$500 million in debt. So Nevis is fast becoming a failed state under Mark Brantley. He needs a bailout from the federal government. On the other hand, the political Weasel Jew has been so evasive and deceitful and lies with such impunity. With the CBI sailors under serious threat of a painful reduction, he is well poised to take our country back to those early Middle Ages when we had no water, no electricity, a scarcity of food, poverty, crime, and fear were all prevalent. This misery has forged a very close relationship between a political weasel and a political monster, Drew and Brantley. And for those reasons, I am forced to conclude that politics makes strange bedfellows. That's my story tonight, my Straight Dog family, and I am not going to change it. I'm going to open the lines and entertain your calls. I'll also entertain your emails as well. And if you're so minded to call, the numbers are 869-663-6672 and or 646-829-6672. I always implore you, when I open the lines, and I'll do so any moment now, respect others. And of course, to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned, and let us try to build goodwill and better friendships. Let's ensure that the things we say and or do will be beneficial to all concerned. And in saying and doing those things, my Straight Dog family, let us strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. Again, the numbers are 663-6672 and or 646-829-6672. That last number, the overseas number, have access to WhatsApp calls as well. You can access that number via WhatsApp. But there are those of you who like what I call the cloak of anonymity. You're afraid that your voice or your voices are heard live on the program. So you hide behind your keyboard. And my Straight Dog family, for those in that category, we give you access via our email platform, and the address is straighttalkpatches@gmail.com. That's STRAIGHTTALK at ALK, beg your pardon, PATCHES, that's one word, the lowercase, at gmail.com. With that said, I go to the lines and say, caller, you are live.
Paternal greetings and joy to you, Brother Patrick. Blessed night.
Blessed night to you,
How
my
you doing?
brother. I'm peaceful, Rasaya. And
Give
yourself?
thanks for life, with the powers of the Almighty guiding and keeping everyone humbly and safe to the heights along. Now, good night to your listeners via of your, as you call it, social media feeding to YouTube and Facebook, as you call Facebook. This is Shinkanana. I'd like to share my condolence to the last of the two of our young people in our federation. I think it's a Nevis, obviously, indicated by gun violence again for this past time within 6 months. We have seen, as you outlined, 13 murders and
14.
Within 14 murders, but 13 are by the hands of gun fatal shooting. And we like to say we don't have enough taxi in these communities or these regions that we are in, and as I call in CARICOM communities. But we're still having these weapons that are being played upon the streets of our people, especially to the concept of the youth them. Now, as a farmer, we like to say, this time now is challenge the full aspect of the trading deal that we have when it comes to the gun aspect of the from the America and the European nations. Because we have seen so much heavy gun impacted on these regions, and then who you think is involved in the aspect of the gun reaching to the young ones them. So we are hoping that the young ones them can have an insistence on not creating violent act or creating animosity because they want some kind of endeavor ruling upon wherever territorial grounds are the same, the holding or wherever aspect the feeding off within the structure of the society and the world. It's time now we start opening mindset to develop, not destroy, because the continuation of destruction coming like this, we won't have a betterment for the future of our generation. And this is something that needed. This is the time for no political disaway our political concept. Because the political parties them are far within the aspect of social development going on. From the car, how you outline some initiative that occurred under the farm administration. But up to now, we not see the social well-being of the people. And even under this administration that we have for 9 months now, these people are not ready to guide the people them and put the people them interest at heart. They put the farm-based interest at heart, and we ain't fair to say so. It's time now we create a better way and more safer way for the young ones them, so we could dissolve matter with a better way, not creating matter and going to start this long journey for one another to be suffering under some violent act continuously. And it's time now we can see these things actually take, not just park it to the action I had in 2015. I had over 1,000 of people marching the street of Belfast. So come 1,000 car march against this violent act. I mean, I talk about march in the sense for political gain, you know. I talk about equal gain and stop the suffering on here in the Caribbean development world. And they call us the third world countries, them. You know, and them things continue no more about the party. I hope for the best of your program tonight where you bring out, because I ain't touching them guns where you're touching, because them they ain't on a fracture level right now. Mark and the Dr. Flu, as you call Dr. Juke, and me if you to say what I say, you know. He told them he's playing a tick for tack with the people, them livelihood. It's time now they take a stand and understand the tick for tack ain't gonna last, you know. You see, so the way it's enough for the ship, as I will say, but who can enjoy it? We got to wise up in mind with information and be wise with knowledge of truth, not knowledge of ignorance. Because a lot of ignorant leaders on here. I mean, if you have to question the ignorance on here we have against the young ones them. And it's time now the young ones them stop waste the energy and violent act and build betterment for the future of the next generation. You can the moon and rise on it, right?
If I can entertain you for a few seconds, you made mention to the social assistance. If I understood you correctly, what would you say is lacking? Is there some for
the $500 to display as a way of helping to pay soon as they call bills and other initiatives? The best way we would expect it is put it into the area where the person have that trouble of the bills and not give them in the hand. Because there is no risk enough for them waste that money. And then they know that the money will come in the next following month, so they continue doing this wasteful thing without setting the proper stage of seeing how they could really save themselves from these burden, obviously, as called heavy tax bills, heavy income bills, because remember that house tax and land tax, all them things that come under the form of the structure of the society, you know. Not we, you know, and the society create these things here. That I think we don't supposed to be paying no land tax, no house tax. If I don't buy a house to build, why should I be paying these things? Even to the project system. I don't know say a project supposed to be for poor people in St. Nevis. It's supposed to be developed for residential people. Our citizens are supposed to have better than these kind of land while I give out to people under the elevation of house farm, under Simon, under Douglas, and under Timothy, and now we are saying now these people coming with some kind of initiative saying that they got 2,500 homes coming in on the street. In a creativity for our people to get out of the poverty line. But they ain't saying about the economical burden that we're facing still. And it's a serious problem, man, you know. Until we rise as a people together, we'll all be a beggar. I'm not a beggar around here, you know. I'm not come to beg or plead. I don't want no one at all. You know, who ain't like me and who like me. But what thing I gotta say, you must learn to have respect for one another. Until that time when we rise with respect and moral grounds, the people will suffer. But the knuckles knowledge, Marcus got to speak that. Give thanks.
Give thanks, my brother. Ras Ayo, never afraid to vent his feelings. Made a very interesting point as to the issuance, if I can call it that, of the PAP monies, and said they should be directed to particular needs of individuals rather than giving the whole sum of $500 to be spent as you wish. Very interesting perspective. The new Labour government, reads this email, has more advisors than experience, and that is a very serious problem. The Prime Minister boasts that all his ministers are experts, but experts devoid of experience are fools when put to the test. And that is exactly what we are experiencing today, reads that email. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you are live. Good night.
Good evening, Patches.
How are you, my brother?
Oh, I'm a good, because I don't eat no food on Monday and Thursday, until I hear you.
Were you fast? Huh?
Well, Patches, you have played a lot of information that we needed to hear all the time. But first, let me say this. I want to say to all the people of People's Action Movement, the present people who support People's Action Movement, and those who left, and those who wanted to go to the People's Action Movement, and the same thing to the people of PLP, those who left, and those who are here, and those who want to come. I want to say to everybody tonight, that Mickey Mouse, Taliban, Labour Party, that is run by the man from Monkey Hill, Joe. We know he went to Cuba to study medicine. And he was indoctrinated down there with Cuban doctrine. And that is exactly what he are doing here to sink it. This land was not given to nobody. It is God's land. But those who want to go over the land, they go up on the political platform and they ask people to vote for them. And when they go in there, they will make sure that everything runs good to suit the people need of the country. But Terrence Jogan in there, and he doing absolutely different. Now, Patrice, it come to my information today that somebody only went to Palm's convention yesterday, Sunday, and they are fired today from the government. Somebody called me, so I tell them I would not doubt it because of the kind of attitude that Joe is leading this country with, but I will have to hear it officially on some media news. But I ain't surprised. Now you're going to tell me all those people Joe done turned away since the India from August 5th last year. They have done nothing wrong to the country. They haven't threatened any leader of the country. Nothing. But just because they're not being what you call a political G-string for Joe, he don't want them to work. Dr. Joe, let me tell you this. Everybody who live in St. Kitts, whether you and you are legal, they have a right to work and earn a living. And you have no right to turn with nobody. And just like I have said, 2015, when thousands of us hit the streets to demonstrate to Dr. Douglas that it's time for him to go. And we're not standing up for no nonsense no longer. I am calling on the two parties, PAM, PLP, and even those who are shaky on labor, come with us, man. It's time for us to hit the street and move him from there. He's doing too much nonsense. Look what he do. He stopped the peace program, and yet the people, the young man, them gone back to gun. He stopped it. Double murder today. 22 murders in just 10 months under his cap. And he used to abuse and say he gonna do this. Things gonna be better. And he even referred to Dr. Harris as a dictator. Well, he better take back his meeting because he is the dictator. He is the dictator in this country here. As the well to say, well, what he said? If he say everybody must jump over the cliff, he must go and smile with him. None goes so. Dr. Joe, you don't have the know-how to run a country. Please, I'm telling you, your experience of running a country is like a centipede laying alongside an adult elephant which is pregnant. You see that comparison? You don't have no experience. And give up. The kind of people you got around who say they're advising you. They're advising you wrong and wrong every day. And you can't see that. Look at the one in Nevis now, patches. The political snake, which is a political G-string for Joe. He cursed the devil out of Douglas with that, out of Labour with Douglas. He even cursed Patrice in his bed. But look where he is now. Look where he is. He's close and Joe back.
Okay.
Trying to get everything from Joe. But Joe, I want to tell you this. If you want to study and be fooled, even though you are being fooled every day by a lot of people, do not get fooled by Mark Wantley. But let me say this one more thing and then I'm going to go and come back.
Please, yeah.
You know the reason why Dr. Joe want to say how many passports he signed his signature on with the CBI? Because, dividend to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis should come from the country's asset, which is the passport. That's the reason why he don't want nobody to know how much passport he sells. Because people will work out the maths, how much money the passport pull in, and the little piece of pittance what he giving them from Social Security. That is not dividend, and Social Security ain't supposed to come from, dividend ain't supposed to come from Social Security. That's why he hiding them out the passport. He don't want nobody to know how much money come in. Anyway, Patrice, I'll be back. So long. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Let's keep our eyes on the time, my Street Dog family. It's now 21 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. Tonight we are looking at the politics, and we are saying that politics make strange bedfellows. I outline the rationale in my introduction to the thesis. But let's take this other call. Caller, you are live. Hello, caller.
Mr. Ian Patch is live. Greetings. How are you?
Peaceful, my brother. Greetings. And what about yourself? Are you there? I dear caller. Are you there, caller? Seem to be having some difficulty with that call. Call if you be kind of just call back. That's a familiar voice. I always like your contributions, and I having some difficulty with that call just now. Let's see if you can call back for a moment, my dear. I'm really sorry about that. It's 21 or 23 past the 9 o'clock hour, and I go straight back to the lines. Caller, you live.
Mr. Patches, greetings.
Greetings, my brother. I thought I missed you for a moment, but God, you get back.
Yeah,
yes.
I miss you for a moment as well.
Yes,
but
good.
life goes on.
Yes.
How are you?
I am peaceful, man. Yourself?
I'm very good myself. You continue bringing spicy topic to the floor, and that is very good.
Thanks.
Humanity by nature is gifted to think freely, but in order that free thought should lead him to the goal of liberty and independence, his way of thinking must be shaped by the process of education. So you continue doing a good job for the nation, which is good because it's about reform.
Yep.
Politics makes strange bedfellows. Very, very touching words. And you outline some history of our country, and you bring it right down to the present situation. You know, Mr. Patches, I just said earlier, 2015, that was a difference in our country. We feel the Spirit of the Lord guiding our country because the people said they wanted a difference. And God give the people what they wanted, a unity. And all it took is for mankind to change their ways, change their attitude, and humble themselves and create ideas and work for the people. We see it was happening and we see it can work. We see ego take over the consciousness of man's mind. Many times, even before the election, and I'm not putting in a defense for the former Prime Minister, but many times, it's like they make the whole world feel that the former Prime Minister is worse than Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. You remember those two stars in the Apollo Steamer with them Jackalope pictures?
Yes,
they make us feel as though he's worse than those two men combined. And you outline the works of the unity administration that they fulfill in the country. You outline them. And if they said these criticisms concerning the former Prime Minister and the works is so different, because remember, it's Sam Condor. He's who tell the world that the leadership under Douglas was taking the country down a dark road.
Dark road, yes.
The leadership of unity take over from that. The country didn't continue in a dark road. The country was put on policies, local government policies. So how we, and those are blessings from the Lord. Many times we hear the country has surplus. And also ask, how come? But remember, in the Bible, it talk about the man with the 5 barley loaves and the 2 small fishes. And we see how much that blessing multiply and serve many. Because you see, who could say that so many people in this country house roofs wanted fixing? Take government policies to do that. You hear government say they leave so much money in the treasury, but yet still people are still getting haircut. How much low you can love your people when you have so much money in your banking and you still want to cut your people share? You ain't even want to fix the house roof. Yeah, you had another prime minister came in and he reversed that. He did things for his people. So how we could be ungrateful for things that happen to the people of the same country, in the same kids. You know, you talk about Jew condition. The Prime Minister, Dr. Jew, shouldn't find himself in an incapable position. Why? Because he must remember how he was elected as a leader of the Labour Party. And if he had those parts in mind, and he then now ascended and become Prime Minister of the country, all he has to do is win the people. So put policies in place to embrace and empower the people. That's how you wouldn't find yourself in the debacle. You won't have to depend on no opposition. I mean, he did that. 2020 election, Mr. Patches, he now tell the country they had a problem with Timothy. So everybody feel assured that we still have a unity administration in place. So what could have happened overnight? Their own ego. Because here is it now. Timothy has his fault. Because I always say, I would have put back that two-term reading in the House of Assembly again after I win the election 2020. But it didn't happen. But with Sean, make a mock of himself because he should have told himself, boy, listen, the two-term ain't come yet. So I'm making nothing to fight Timothy against because the two-term ain't come yet. Every 5 years is a term. And if you're thinking so serious about your country, how you could say at the beginning of a second term, you're going to make disturbance.
True.
That's disturbance. That's legal overture. And with Mark again, he never complained that Nevis ain't getting no fair share. You know, he himself know what he mean by a fair share. Because all the premiers of Nevis, he get the best contribution for budgetary support ever from a federal government. Mr. Patches, you continue having your serious programs, your serious topics. And before I go, with my man who talking about principles stand. What principles stand Pam take? Pam ain't take the principles stand. Pam, this stand, when they take the stand, they forget the country. Because they were the government, they were part of the government. Nobody pushed them out of government, you know. They pushed themselves out of government. What principles stand they talking about? Mr. Patches, you continue to stay strong and stay healthy. God bless.
God bless you as well, my brother. And then you do the same. We go straight back to the lines. It's 9:31. Caller, you're live.
Hello.
Yes, my brother.
Started.
How is the Bible man tonight?
Well, the Bible man, I just come from me. I just come.
Bible man, I'm sorry I lost you there. You perhaps need a top-up. But we've lost you there. As always, look forward to your Bible sentences. Let's take this email in the meantime. Sir, a pleasant evening to you. Let me make bold to say this. Reads this email. You are leveling some serious allegations against our Attorney General, Mr. Garth Wilkin. What you are alleging is not a trifling matter, Mr. Liburd, and I trust that you are aware of this. Not paying Social Security contributions for a nanny is one thing, sir, But an Attorney General I'll get back to this email, my Street Dog family. I'm not getting too clear with this email. The so-called leader of opposition, Mark Brantley, continued to make himself the laughing stock in Parliament and a damn fool of himself. They say St. Kitts is a strange place, and only in St. Kitts these things can happen. Just imagine the leader of the opposition cursing out his opposition colleagues sitting next to him, saying that they are only grandstanding and pontificating. Only in St. Kitts you find the opposition abusing opposition. What a political fool Mark Brantley is. Reads that email. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you are live. Hello, caller.
Mr. Street Talk.
How are you, my dear brother?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Been good. I went to New York last week and it was a blessing.
You did?
See an old friend I haven't seen in so many years. But I just want to give God thanks for you because you really bring out some points tonight there that I didn't hear nothing of that. I think it had two murders and I had to call my nephew to ask him, guy, I just hear over the radio here that they had two murders in St. Kitts. Is it really so? He says, yes. But my straight up, smart straight up, I just want to know, did you hear about what happened in Grenada last week? That Grenada is going to build a brand new big hospital. So Grenada says they're going and build this massive hospital. They can't move the old one. You know, they ain't talk about no hospital, no smart hospital. You know what they say? They're going and build a teaching hospital.
What?
So I wonder where our Prime Minister get this thing about smart hospital. Because big Grenada never said they're going and build a smart hospital. They said they're going and build a teachable hospital. So I guess our Prime Minister going to have to stop talking about smart hospital. Because there's no such thing. Mr. Straight Talker, I don't know what's going on in St. Kitts with our Prime Minister, but he's doing something that he wants to do and he don't want to do. But all I can say to you that you are doing a wonderful job. You are letting the people know what's going on and just continue to do what you got to do. Because you are standing up strong. You're not giving in. And you're really coming out firing tonight. Both double barrels with your tongue. Thank you for what you are doing, my brother. I'll see you when I see you. Be good. Thank you.
See you when
God bless you.
See you when I see you as well, my dear brother. Philadelphia in the house. We go straight back to the lines. Caller, you are live. Hello,
Good
caller.
night. How are you? Good night. How are you?
I am peaceful, my dear. Yourself?
Not too bad. I'm thanking God for still life. How was your weekend?
My weekend was restful, you know. I went to church.
Mr. Libert, nothing was doing. What happened now? We come back to 20 years ago. There used to be a sugar money program bringing down the Timothy. He gives 500 and taxi and busmen money, hotel workers too. They come with their cheating self, say 1,005, catch them red-handed. Now they're balling. While the joyriding every week, I sure they ain't here. If they're here, only some. Promising can do nothing will be new. Nothing will be new to only things to finish what Timothy left. Timothy take as they say he was taken and given. He come from labor. They did not want him. He showed them he better than them. 600 names they take off. More and turn away people and say they know the Bible. Pastors, I did not go grammar school, so I have to catch up. I'll be back if I get in. It's too bad.
Thank you very much. There we go. Sounds like Alice in Wonderland there. The so-called leader of the opposition, Mark Brantley, I think I read that before. Yes, I'm sorry about that, my Straight Dog family. I think I read that email before. Let's go back to the lines. I'll get back to the emails. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you live. Hello, caller.
Good night, Patrick. Good night.
Good night, my brother.
Oh, first I always want to thank God for life and thank God for the Federation of Spinkit Nevis. And thank God for all the good people in the country. And see wrong and say wrong. And who see right, say right. That is where the talk show is all about. Patrick, you read the email just now, right? Like somebody said Mark Bentley is a fool. He ain't a fool. He ain't a damn fool. He know what he doing. Mark Bentley got agenda. He know what he doing politically. He trying to drive a wedge in the federal government. He will do anything to get leadership as a prime minister. And that is what Mark Bentley is doing. He come down to the convention yesterday. I don't know, but they set the 10 Charlie Labor. And if Mark Bentley had any use to come, or any use to think it, I believe Mark Bentley will come down and make a presentation and talk about the cause of the unity and whatever. But you see, he's a hypocrite. He don't know what he don't do to destroy the unity. And he want to cause all what's going on right now. That's why I said that the people of Stinkits, the people, the good conscious minded people, could go up and spend the money in the event of Nevis. They could go and enjoy themselves, but as long as Mark Bentley is the premier in Nevis, I will never go in Nevis to spend the money for the event up there. I finish with that. He ain't have no love, he ain't have no use to think it. You understand? And you just start to see what's going on with the crime, with the young men just shooting down one another woman in it right now. And all I got to do is for my country and see the best for my country. And when you see wrong, say wrong. When you see right, you say right. But I believe if this present government, when they get in, if they continue the program where the government they had there to keep these young boys together. Because peace is peace. And when you're trying to make peace, you can't go in and dissect it up so one time. After what it will phase out. Peace is peace. Regardless of what. And whether peace and not whatsoever program be in there. I do not believe them no young man supposed to take the gun and shoot one another in the country like that. And I believe all this come from the lack of parents in. Patches the lack of parents in these ignorance coming from. You can't, some of the parents them play these children and all. They play they want children them. They try to talk to them. But they tell you some afternoon I was on a bus going home. And the bus be full. Well, I should have by a young man. But Mister, don't jump on Mr. Hardin, man. Don't jump on me, Mr. Hardin. I said, partner, one to you. Everybody wants to get home. I said, if you want anybody jump on your heart, but your own vehicle, but when you start out, you know what? I'll tell the bus driver, stop. Stop. I don't want to be nothing with these young men here. I don't want to keep up my heart talk with them. And when you look at me, someone shoot me. It look like these intentions. If we just got a little argument with them, a little whatever you tell them or whatever, they're gonna go coop it up and go shoot you know. That is. You seem like this and you got to blame the parents them because what you want to tell me from kindergarten or from primary, come up. You got the children them coming up. You teach them the right thing. You show them what to do. You tell them what to go. When we were young coming up, we had life hard patches. We had life hard. We go pitch marble. We go play with cricket. We go play with football. We go really struggling, really fighting. But we never had them kind of thing in our head. We got to have go kill one another, poke one another, and go kill them. So I just want to know where this kind of attitude are them coming from. And I want to see better for my country. And if the people of the community them see better and they could do better with the children that see what you see, that is, the country ain't gonna get nowhere. The country ain't gonna get nowhere. He ain't looking good, he ain't sounding good. So when I hit patches, I was in the bed laying down this afternoon after 12. And when I get a call, tell me that happened. Patches, I said, you come and back me one time. That only show you how so much a concern about my country and about my people. Okay, then, Patches.
Thank you, my brother. Thanks for your intervention and and I believe that news did upset everyone's stomach at about midday today. The event you have just joined us and you have not heard that today we had another double homicide. And if you just joined us as well, we are looking at our thesis for tonight, Politics Make Strange Bedfellows. And I got the idea when a few days ago someone sent me a recently released Calypso. And it spoke to the two leaders coming together. And I found it rather strange, my straight dog fan. But let's go to the lines, or let me take some emails and get dispense of my emails as my time is hurrying on. I attended PAM convention yesterday. Read this email. Purposely to confront Mark, the traitor and the hypocrite. But he sent the rat and sent two of his nominated members. However, I was pleased with the lukewarm reception they received, and little attention was given to them by the audience. PAM need to take a firm stand against Mark and his ministers, for they only coming around to spy and garner PAM news and information to carry back to Drew and Labour, because Mark is the kind of fellow who only put his mouth where the soup is sharing. Reads this email. This other email reads, Mr. McMahon, you're criticizing PAM guest speaker for making reference of bones in rice and pepper in soup. Stop the hypocrisy, McMahon, for I am sure you heard Sam say he can confirm that Bradshaw made the statement in Warner Park for a Labour supporter who was present at the meeting in Warner Park. Said Bradshaw did in fact state he will give Nevis bones in their rice and pepper in their soup, and Anguilla will be turned into a desert following his party's loss in the 1966 general elections. So there was never a doubt he made that statement. Reads this other email. This email reads, many people are wondering if our Prime Minister is suffering from a mental disorder because the many false, public and inaccurate statements he continues to make. It has to be something is definitely wrong with his mental capacity. For him to say over and over there has not been any significant developments for the past 7 years in the country has to be a lunatic. So, Mr. Drew, what would you call the Old Road Bay project? What is the rehabilitation of the Island Main Road called? What about the bus and ferry terminals? The implementation of the traffic lights and many others? Are they not significant? I am convinced more and more that you have no clue what is taking place in the country, reads this other email. At 12 before the 10 o'clock hour, I'll read a few more emails and get back to the lines. Callers, bear with me. Patches, how could citizens in this country allow Dr. Drew to be unceremoniously sending home his perceived enemies and hiring his close friends and family in the government service? Most of what Drew and Labour are doing is vindictive, and no leader with such bad intentions can last longer than one term. The situation is not sustainable and goes against the principles of good governance. How can any government be allowed to simply get rid of who they don't like and only empower their close supporters? This is the worst government ever. How would we sit aside and watch? How could we sit aside and watch immature, unprofessional Drew run this country like a bar shop? This country was built on principles of working class people working and building the country, all hands on deck. What message is Drew sending to the future generations that only one set of people are allowed to work in this country? We have to get rid of Drew as soon as possible, reads this other email. Patches, it was evidence from the PAM convention yesterday that Sean needs to step down to allow fresh leadership in PAM to emerge. Sean sounded flat and tired last evening and obviously was not inspirational. Patches, I can assure you that if Sean and Timothy step aside today, this government will fall within the next 2 years. Janelle and Natasha sound very humbled, and I respect them a lot for this. I can see either of them becoming the next prime minister in this country. They are both decent people. Pam and PLP must unite again to save this country from that idiot prime minister who is ruining the country right in front of our faces, reads this other email. Jonelle, I don't agree that you had to stand on any principled decision, because look at how much suffering people are going through under Labour. You should have simply apologized to us. I hope that Timothy Harris do the same and apologize to the nation, because as foolish, immature and deceitful that Jew and his cabals are, we have to struggle and suffer under him. You preferred for us to be off pap, not working and struggling to feed our children under this dirty Labour government? You all are mature, big university graduates. We are the simple, ordinary man depending on you all, both PLP and PAM, and you disappointed us. It's not too late, though, because whenever the bell rings, be assured that we are not voting for Labour again. A divided country will not stand, reads this email. Good night, Mr. Liburn. When Prime Minister Harris said Brantley is a bad spender, it's so true. Mr. Henry gone to his grave and still haven't got his money from the inquiry case for the education building. Mr. Emery regretted taking him in the CCM. But guess what? The same thing he did to Emery now, Troy Liburd wants him out. Nevis people fed up. Even the Spanish and Guyanese are fed up of Marco Polo, reads this other email. Patches, say what you like, but I think Mark Brantley may go down as one of the Federation's most astute politicians. He is calculating, knows how to divide and control. He toes the line without crossing to show his true colors of his disposition of the native condition. I don't know the guy personally, but he's a public figure, so I get to research his past statements, and they are revealing. He's correct in saying that someone from Nevis can be the Federation's Prime Minister, but we know based on the current model, it would take a real manipulative, person to pull that off. So don't close your eyes on Brantley. The foreign magnate reads this email. And this other email reads, the new government or the now government still can't condemn gun violence. To say what plans they have in store to protect its citizens. It seems to me they don't have any idea what to do with what is haunting the country. Imagine, I'm on the job hearing about the double murder, but I'm hiding and peeping through the door. Person said if PLP won, they would migrate. I think this is a grand opportunity to migrate. When the Douglas Labour Party was then in power, many of our citizens migrated. They came back and voted back Labour into power, and for the same results they migrated for. We are the ones who live here and have to deal with all the suffering. Mighty God of Daniel, have mercy on us. Read this email. I am hurt and deeply disappointed with the Labour government, and that is with any Labour party, who don't know what Labour means and what they stand for. They want people to suck salt. They want us to suffer. They refuse to do right for its citizens. Patches, people's hearts are hurting them. Living here will soon belong to the die-hard Labour people and those playing enemy, mini, more. Eeny, meeny, miny, more with the people's lives. The government is all for show. Who can fly the most, dress the best, participate the most in events? The Labour government is not serious. Let Mark take what he gets. That's what he deserves. He's greedy with his snake-like qualities. Prime Minister Joe don't have an inkling. Reads that email. And my straight talk family, it's now 6 before the 10 o'clock hour. I'll go back to the lines now, take our remaining calls. I did start a bit tardy, so I will perhaps contribute some time for us, my straight dog from here.
Hello?
Yes, you're live.
Hello?
Yes, you're live, my dear.
Yes, Mr. Libert, the people that get land in unity time, since then now the land was people land. Why they never claimed them before the government changed? Why wait until now to say it's people land? Now they don't pay surveyor and treasury. It's unfair to people, but Monkey Hill people could get theirs. It's only them one in St. Kitts. That's for them to keep their mouth shut. They can't live among them. It suits them. They think it would have been better not while 10 men in one and since a ban come back. How come foreigners coming to take up jobs? Nobody here could do no work. The sheik that was here are here. Are they the Taliban? You give something for something. Nobody here good enough. Jobs only vote, only for vote. Cheaters. If nobody paying no bill from me, where I can't talk. A new agriculture worker. Who next? Nobody here could do the job again. Let me talk. We will see if it will be better. The farmers cannot make no more noise. They get somebody to help them. Cheaters. Let people here do work. Not send people here and here. Say you good night.
Good night, my dear.
The hospital full of Cubans because I went there to study. See you.
Have a good night, my dear. There's someone trying to get me on the local line. There is an overseas line. If you are trying to get the number, it's 646-829-6672. Yes, you can call the local line as well, but I'm going to make it a little cheaper for you if you call the direct line, which is 646-829-6672 for that individual who's trying to get me on the local line with an overseas number. So the overseas line is accessible as well. Again, it's 646-829-6672. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you live. Hello, caller?
Yeah.
So.
You got me, Patches?
Yes, you're live.
Okay. I'm going to make mine quick.
Please.
Patches, I think this is my last call to the general public. Who you got? Okay.
You're live. The world is listening to you. Just talk to the telephone.
Me touches?
Yes, you're live.
Okay. Because I hear Alice. Now, this is my last call to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Cut sing a song say only in St. Christopher. That is, it is time for us to stand up and let our conscience be our guide. 2 gone, 1 more to come. I'm speaking about convention. Labour's convention has gone, PAM convention has gone, and Unity convention is to come, and that will make a big difference anytime any election is supposed to call. People, let us forget our differences. St. Kitts and Nevis is ours, and the country cannot go forward without people, and the people would be the electorate. Let us come together and look at who is the best leader. Mark Brantley is the worst leader that Nevis ever have and will ever have. Because what he did to Mr. Amory, cool, respectable, well-loved, a man who bring investors to the country. He backstab him, politically backstab him, and now he carry Nevis down the grade. And so it is with Dr. Joe and his cabal them. They take up St. Kitts with surplus, and now they got the country in deficit. He said the country is in red, but every week they find themselves on a plane. People, let us come together and do what we have to do. Put Dr. Harris back in position to bring this country from the bottom of the ocean, politically and financially and progressively. That is time short. I'll see you Monday. Or Thursday. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, my dear brother. Let's go back to the lines and take a few more calls. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Good night.
Good night, my brother. How about thou? Jam down.
I'm fine, boy, but we going back to square one, boy, Patches, boy.
It's sad.
Patches, we had a double murder today, you know.
Yes.
And up to now, we can't hear from the head of the government. At least somebody could have come and tell the country something. What's going on? People look like they were grudgy, man, running the country good, and want the job, they get the job, they tell the people they could do better, and look where we are get Patches. Not even to come talk to the animal them in the cage. Come on, man. Patches, you know, I hear thinking here down the circus. I will like Social Security to tell us how much are all these young men for dead gone? How much they contribute to Social Security? If they contribute at least a 10% at the 500 contribution, because it looks like we're losing all these young guys. And people standing there watching the slaughter. And my old friend tell me, it looks like they didn't know it's so hard the job be. But you make nice work, you get good, you say you want it. The people them give you, and look where we are getting. Come on, somebody step up to the table and come and say something. You're smiling, you ain't saying nothing. Come and say something. Anyway, I just want St. people to know, you know, that the real man having the convention, and we want everybody to be there because there's a lot to be said. And don't say woman talking about I want to hear nothing on the TV. Come over and listen to the guy. Because we want you all to leave our home. So I don't tell Harry and Peter, pack up and come. It's going to be great. That is, have a good night.
Have a good night, my dear brother. Jam down. Always to the point. My J-Talk family, I started a bit late, so I thought I'll give you back your time. So I'll perhaps take 2 more calls if we can be guided by the rules of brevity. I'll take my two final calls. But for those who might have joined me late as well, my thesis was titled, or the title of my thesis is Politics Make Strange Bedfellows, a Weasel and a Monster. Because a few days ago, someone sent me a soundbite from a recently released Kaiso. And my Straight Talk family, in the Calypso done by politician and many times crowned Culturama King, this and that displayed seasoned art, or his seasoned art of combining melodic, rhythmic, and harmonic tones in progression, causing an intelligible sound. And while I'm speaking, I'm looking for it. And this is an excerpt from his Kaiso.
You have a real opportunity to build. I say build. Put your shoulders to the wheel. Let the country see and feel as you build. I say build this country. Let history be your guide. Put loyalty by your side. Success, my friend, will come once you are mine. So let we build this country.
And it's the lyrical content of that Kaiso that caught my attention and caused me to pen my thesis tonight, which I titled Politics Make Strange Bedfellows, a Weasel and a Monster. And it said like this: Dr. Drew and Mark Brantley have a real opportunity to build this country. But it goes on to say, let history be your guide. Put loyalty by your side, and success will come once you abide. Well, if history is to be their guide, then they must put loyalty by their side, and yes, success will come once they abide. But what tells us, or what that tells us rather, is that Drew and Brantley will have to accept or act in accordance with a particular decision or recommendation that is before them. So the question that derives is this: what is the political interest of Dr. Drew and Mark Brantley? And political interest can bring together people who otherwise have little in common. And this concise statement contains a held truth or advice. And the phrase "strange bedfellows" was coined by William Shakespeare and adapted from a line in the play The Tempest, and in its full context reads, and I quote, "Misery acquaints a man with strange bedfellows." It was spoken by a man who had been shipwrecked and found himself seeking shelter. He found himself behind a sleeping monster. In our current situation in St. Kitts Nevis, it has come to mean finding oneself in a difficult situation forces one to associate with a person or people that they would not normally have anything to do with. The activities associated with the governance of our federation, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power, continue to demand the scrutiny of every citizen and resident. And believe it or not, today, the 5th of June, makes exactly 10 months since we elected a new government. But during that time, the country has found out that our leader is dishonest, cannot be trusted, is sneaky, devious, or deceitful, and he evades every question posed by the media. Someone referred to him as a political weasel, whose words make arguments seem specific, well thought out and meaningful, when in reality his claims are vague, avoids the facts, and are ambiguous. He continues to use these weasel words that were employed during his political campaigning and interviews, seemingly forgetting that now is the time to govern the country. On the other hand, there are monsters that are very often depicted as dangerous and aggressive, and there's this political monster called Mark Brantley, who is no exception. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis can no longer deny that this political monster, Mark Brantley, is real. He wrestled the leadership from a founding member of the CCM and replaced the cool, calm, collective, and participative style of Vance Winkworth Amory, may his soul rest in peace, with what many call one of autocracy, in which Mark Brantley displays a domineering rule of single control over his executive. We reflected on from whence we came and where we are at this point in time. And in 2015, we reflected when the Federation was presented with a political alliance of 3 political parties which formed the government after the 2015 election. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis spoke loud and clear, and in the process demanded a change in the governance of the Twin Island Federation. And there are some amongst us, for narrow political reasons, would rewrite history if given the opportunity. But Straight Talk won't allow that, because the period of 2015 to 2020 in particular must go down as the most productive years in the economic and social development of St. Kitts and Nevis, and political development as well. Never did the Federation experience the kind and level of infrastructure development, and furthermore, in such a short period of time. The rehabilitation of the Island Main Road, the rehabilitation of the Old Road Bay, construction of the brand new ferry terminal, construction of the East Bastia bus line terminal, and construction of the West Bastia bus line terminal. Installation of traffic lights in Bastia, improving the effectiveness, safety, and efficiency of the traffic management in Bastia. Resurfacing of the entire runway and the installation of brand new solar lighting. Also the resurfacing of 3 taxiways, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie at the RLB International Airport. Construction of affordable homes, and the construction of the second cruise pier that can accommodate 2 of the world's largest cruise ships afloat today. And they can do so simultaneously. So one must be disingenuous to say that Team Unity did nothing in 7 years, when in fact it delivered a brighter future for all Kittitians and divisions. So when any leader in PAM, worse yet, Jonel Powell, can make a statement like this, just yesterday, we must have cause for concern, my Straight Dog family.
The last has not gone the way we wanted it to go. But if it's one thing, you know that your party and leaders took a principled stand for the people of this country. And we know that sometimes when people stand up for what is right and they stand up on principle, they quite often face tribulation.
A confused leader. How can you take a principled stand that derive the level and kind of suffering for thousands of people in your country, poor people at that? How can you take a principled stand that has derived a situation where homicides, murders, highlights have returned to St. Kitts and Nevis? How can you take a principled stand when victimization is rampant in the country? How can you, my Straight Dog family? But here we have now two leaders, Drew and Brantley, who the whole world knows are very far apart in every way. But Drew does not have the confidence that he can hold his party together, and Brantley still has the ambition to serve in a government and perhaps to become Prime Minister. A clear case of two politicians who we can say are strange bedfellows. In his 10 months in office, Drew has been accused of having complete disregard for the truth. He has made the poor poorer and from the federal government, and no proper accounting has been given to date. All the projects had cost overruns and not one project has been completed to date. I spoke to the Monday track, the hospital, and the list goes on and on. The people of Nevis have rejected Mark Brantley. He brought in 600 voters from overseas to sustain him. How could the people of St. Kitts embrace this monster? Remember, under the cloak of parliamentary immunity, what he said about Douglas. Yet he traveled with Douglas to Westminster Abbey, but he was left in the holding area. And perhaps he should adopt Robert Mugabe's reconciliation statement. And even if he did, the country will not forgive Mark Brantley. He said, if yesterday I fought you as an enemy, today you have become the friend and ally. If yesterday you hated me, you cannot avoid the love that binds you to me and me to you. The wrongs of the past must now stand forgiven and forgotten. Mark Brantley's obsession is with power. A lot of people may think he has changed, especially since the local NIA elections in 2022. But Brantley can never change. In fact, he's the most consistent secessionist I have ever known. What changed were the circumstances. His grip on power is under threat, and he has run to the NIA, or he has run the NIA into a mountain of debt. So he's looking for a bailout, and Drew sees Brantley as his political insurance. But the political weasel ought to be cautious with this political monster. Right now he's premier and opposition leader. He wants to become premier and prime minister. He confided in someone close to him that he would change his name to Mark the Conqueror and move the parliament to Nevis. He's hated in Nevis. He's just an opportunist with no path and no conviction. This political monster is just a destabilizing factor, beg your pardon. The best place for both of them, is to be exiled on Booby Island. political monster, has run his public debt at the NIA well over $500 million. But the Straight Talk family, the Weasel has his own problems. The misery of both of them has forged a very close relationship between a political weasel and a political monster, Drew and Brantley. And for those reasons, I was forced to conclude that politics make strange bedfellows, a weasel and a monster. That's my story tonight, and I'm not going to change it. But I want to thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight, and as always, I want to thank all of you who listened on social media. Those who just listened, those who called, those who sent emails. Remember, all of you, each and every one of you, are the ones who make Straight Talk. And for that reason, I say a big, big thank you. I am Ian Patch-Live, and in God's spare, we will connect on Thursday for another edition of Straight Talk. Until then, be good to yourselves and to all whom you meet. And remember that whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve. But first of all, you must believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light and thank Him for taking you through the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye. Until we connect on Thursday.
Conceive that I will achieve. You better believe, because I do the things I should. Be to my brethren.